Hello and welcome to River Reads. This is the Comic Couch. I just want to kick things off by talking about a comic that I am particularly fond of, passionate about, and a touch concerned about. If we dive into it, I just got done reading these three comic books, which is Amazing Spider-Man 48, 49, and the one-shot, The Sins of Norman Osborn. And so my concern about this, basically this storyline, is these comic books finish up the Sins Rising storyline that has been going ahead with Nick Spencer and various people on art, mostly Mark Bagley and Ryan Ottley. Fantastic artwork, I will point that out. But my main concern with this story is that it's essentially promising too much. I think it's just the main issue that the run as a whole has had over the last 50 issues, right? Nick Spencer has been writing this book for almost 50 issues, which in comics terms is a big run. Like, you don't normally see people getting that big a run aside from maybe like your Joshua Williamson, who's just finished The Flash, and even Tom King's Batman run, which aims to get to 100, couldn't even reach that point, which is a different story. But like, getting a long run like that, especially, is huge. I know like Dan Slott accomplished quite a large run with his Amazing Spider-Man run, but I feel like the things that Spencer has set himself up for with this run hasn't. Yeah, I feel like it's been like he's bitten off more than he can chew. He's aiming to retcon and to reestablish things that weren't in place anymore. So he's sort of re-established things like the Kraven's Last Hunt through the Hunted storyline, and he's sort of revisited things like the 2099 storyline, and I think his run has basically needed to spin its wheels quite a bit due to both retconning and tie-ins, which is fine, but the entire storyline, I think from issue 1, has been teasing this giant plot thread of the Kindred story arc, and I think it's been a main concern that the story arc has been spinning its wheels, telling the story while also dealing with other things, and that sort of is what shows me that maybe his arc has bitten off more than it can chew. And I think this storyline here, this Sins Rising, is a great example of biting off more than you can chew. I think, like, so if this was just a Sin Eater and Green Goblin storyline, that would be great. You know, like, I think that would feel like what the run has promised, because I think the run promised back to basics. Volume 1 of Spencer's run is called Back to Basics, because I mean, you know, like Dan Slott's run was all over the place in a good way, not horrible, not bad, right? Like, in a good way, like Superior Spider-Man worldwide, like all this stuff happened, and then just like Spencer's like, okay, just back to basics. Let's just do some basic Spider-Man stuff. You had like the Lizard, that was great, and it's also given a chance to see Ottley try his hand at, you know, some Lizard stuff and some Mary Jane stuff, and it's been great. And even Spencer's run has dove into a lot of like sort of Parker's relationships, which has been great. And so I think if this storyline in particular had sort of taken upon that point, that sort of back to basics point, I think it would have been a lot better. But this storyline wound up being like a Spiderverse light. So as of issue 48, they introduced into the storyline like your Miles, various Spider-Women. I lost track of all the Spider-Women that were in the story. You had Spider-Gwen, and you had Madam Web coming in talking about the Web of Life and Destiny, which I hoped we would have left in Spiderverse and just not gone back to that, right? Not that that's a bad concept, but I think when we're after a back to basics Spider-Man story, I think diving into the Spiderverse stuff, which ultimately you have to, because at least 2 of these Spider people are from alternate universes, so you kind of have to dive into this, into the Spider-Verse element of it all. and that you can't not think of Spider-Verse when you got the Web of Life and Destiny. You can't not. And even as of, I believe it was in issue 49, they spoke about the sort of events with Morlan and things like that. And so you can't not think about that stuff. And I think that just boils down to the fact that there's just too much happening there. Because you got to consider, like, it's the Amazing Spider-Man book. It's ideally Peter's book, ideally. And you're considering all these other characters who, in their own right, should have their own books. I know Miles's book is great at the moment, and so like I just feel like they felt a bit out of place in this story, and so that's, I guess, my main concern. And this is issue 49 of the run, and we don't know who Kindred is yet. And I believe we're meant to find that out in the next story called Last Rites, which is issue, I think, 50 to 55 of the run. I'm really hoping that that story pays off the Kindred stuff successfully, because like I'm a huge fan of these stories that like set up a character, set up a plot point, and can really pay it off well. Like the mystery characters being set up and paid off was some of my favorite things of DC Rebirth in recent memory. So with things like Mr. Oz and as well, the mystery Clark Kent as well. That was fun. And I think like just even the aspects of speculating who are these characters, and that's been the fun part of the Kindred stuff. It's like who's Kindred? What does he want? Things like that. That's the fun of it. But like when you're, I think, like a year or two into your run now, like the goal is to get you to that point, but it's like you're on a road trip and you just keep stopping to look at this look at this diner, look at this great thing, like, to stop to sightsee. It's like but we want to get to the destination. It's been like what, a year or two now. We want to get to the destination. So I'm really hoping that the next story arc, which is issues 50 to 55, I believe, really pays off the Kindred stuff well. And can really set the run in a good direction. I know that a run being extended, like not extended, but a run of a comic book being very long form like this can lead to some dips and dives. It can lead to some moments where it's like, this feels slow. This feels like you're spinning your wheels a bit. The example I can bring up is Flash by Joshua Williamson. I loved that whole run, but I think there were a couple of moments in there, because it's over 100 issues of a run. And I think that just lends itself to potentially spinning your wheels. So I'm really hoping that, and this actually, I know I'm like ripping into this storyline a bit. This Sins Rising storyline has been probably my favorite storyline of the run so far. And so like I think Nick Spencer has a great opportunity to really just tighten up his run and just really give it a high note. So I'm really hoping that this next story arc achieves that well. Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you on the next video.